So point being, if people tell you that, oh, COMEX is flush with silver, look at this line, look at how big the silver supply is, look how many ounces they have, millions and probably millions. It's not actually true. And we'll get into why right now. Today's video is brought to you by...
Mom, why is there orange in my purple berry puffs?
As an active mom, I care about these things. I'll check the box while you start eating.
Purpleberry Puffs are the sweetest part of your complete breakfast, along with juice, toast, ham, eggs, bacon, milk, cheese, liver, waffles, and a big horse vitamin.
Hey guys, Raf here from the Endgame Investor, and we're going to do some COMEX research today. 3.5 million ounces of silver were sucked out of the registry, meaning they were taken off the futures market and put into storage from the JPMorgan Vault. We're going to go into a little bit of the nitty-gritty numbers in the COMEX, how much is actually left there. It's a lot less than it looks like on the charts, and I'll explain to you exactly why. I'm also going to go into the short-term moves in silver, which I think is going to be a little bit volatile in days ahead until somewhere around delivery for next month, and we're reaching the end of the month now. Delivery starts, I think, on April 28th or 27th. That's just a few days from now, and once that happens, I think the pressure will be off the silver market. We're going to be looking at the JPMorgan Vault. We're going to be looking at how much metal JPMorgan actually has versus how much it looks like it has, and why between 19 million and 41 million in the eligible supply are probably off limits at the Vault of Delaware. So point being, if people tell you that, oh, COMEX is flush with silver, look at this line, look at how big the silver supply is, look how many ounces they have, millions and probably millions. It's not actually true, and we'll get into why right now. Begin with a 2-year open interest chart. This is a little bit of a caution warning that I am bullish silver in the long term, in the medium term, and even in the short term, I would say. But in the very short term, it looks like we might have some correctional activity coming up. And why do I say that? Because if you look at these green bars in the middle here, I think that's green. You see the open interest is now 158, let's say 159,000 contracts. That's about 160,000 contracts, and that's a big move up from what was the low of 117,000 contracts just a few weeks ago. So we've gone a lot, way higher in open interest, which means that there's a lot more silver contracts open, a lot more shorts and a lot more longs, because they always have to equal each other out, obviously. But we see here on the historical chart of the last 2 years, whenever open interest tends to really fall quickly, you have a fall in price. That's the shorts covering and squeezing the longs out. That's what usually happens. Doesn't always happen, but it usually happens. You see here in June of 2021, a move from the highs of close to 30 here. What was it, $28? And the open interest moved down from, it looks like 200,000 to about 160,000 contracts. I'm just eyeballing it here, not very well. But you see here basically a move down in open interest, a move down in price. Same thing here, move down in price, move down in open interest from a spike here. We're about back to these levels over here from 2022, from April 2022. And so open interest hasn't really fallen at all since this small correction in silver price began. So I think what is probably going to happen here is a quick and possibly slightly brutal fall in silver prices to reset open interest down, to squeeze the longs out, and from there we can start another rally. Now, I'm just looking at recent historical evidence here. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to fall. You could have a little short squeeze in silver. It's possible. It's just unlikely looking at this chart here. And there are two possible technical triggers for the end of the current correction in silver, and that is options expiration, I believe, on Tuesday coming up in 1 or 2 days, depending on when you're watching this. And also May silver delivery day, which I believe starts on April 27th at the close of trading, which is just a few business days away. So we're not talking about super long term here. I'm talking about a possibly quick and brutal correction in gold and silver prices. But in terms of physical buying, it won't really affect much because physical premiums tend to rise under these conditions, so you'll end up paying the same price anyway. What I wanted to point out today was that 3.4 million ounces were taken off of the futures market, specifically by the JPMorgan Vault, which is a big player in silver futures, as we'll see in the coming slides. 3.418935 million ounces of silver is the biggest daily drawdown since July 2022. And the third biggest drawdown this year, biggest daily drawdown. So what is JP Morgan doing? taking 3.4 million ounces off of the market. Well, it might not be JPMorgan. It might be just whoever owns this silver is looking to put it into storage and not sell it. We don't know who exactly is behind this. We just know what vault it's taking place in, and that is the JPMorgan Vault. And this is what I want to focus on with the JPMorgan Vault. It looks like they have a lot of silver, and it says here, look, 141.674 million ounces. That sounds like a lot of silver, and indeed it is just over half of the total silver in the COMEX of all vaults. So JPMorgan is the big player here, but it's not as much as it looks like. And why is that? Because if we go back to this slide here, see, this is the April 20th read of the SLV ETF, and these are the silver bars that are located in various vaults, 3 different vaults, 2 in London and 1 in New York. This is the JPMorgan Vault of 102,837 5,000 ounce silver bars, and that translates to 103,176,253 ounces. So of the 141.6 million ounces, 103.1 is off limits. It's off the market. It belongs to SLV. Now, you could argue, is SLV double selling? Maybe they are, but I'm not going to get into that argument. I'm just going to assume they're not. And so we have here eligible stocks. The SLV owned bars are part of the eligible stocks, obviously, because they're not registered for sale. You cannot sell those bars. They're owned by the ETF. So if we take them away from just the eligible stocks, we have here 131.7 minus 103. We have 28.7 million ounces that JPMorgan has left to sell. And we don't know how many of those 28.7 million ounces are owned by private entities that have nothing to do with JPMorgan or just using its vault for storage. So it's going to be less than that. Maybe, let's say, generously about 20 million ounces. That's how much silver they can dump on the market. That's not a lot. Why is that not a lot? Because right here, you see this vertical line down in the eligible supply of JPMorgan silver. That was the emergency move during the July 2020 deliveries of silver, which were an all-time record high for silver deliveries of warrants. And they moved out what looks like about 30 million ounces out of the eligible supply back to sale in the registry. And that is more than the current amount of eligible stocks they have, minus, let's say, 8 million or so. Let's say they have 20 million now. This is more than that. They moved in one day. So this is not a lot of silver. It's really not. And now the other thing I wanted to go into is the Delaware Vault. I looked into this vault. I didn't do any meticulous research or anything, looking into all papers of the past and really digging up, but I just looked at what their business is, and a lot of it is individual retirement accounts, IRAs. They manage and they store silver for IRA accounts. So you see here they had a huge influx of eligible, specifically silver. Their registered supply has stayed almost zero. It's less than 500,000, 405,000 ounces of registered silver for sale on the futures market. We have 41 million ounces that have really risen from about 20 million in 2022. So we could say something maybe 20 million ounces belong to IRAs here. There's a big influx around that number. So it's 20 million less ounces than shows on the total silver stocks for all of COMEX, which are now at 270 chickens.
Oh, chicken. Chip, 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 chip. You're not good. You're just a chicken. Chip, 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 chip.
So see the total amount of silver, including registered and eligible, meaning storage and for sale supplies of silver on all COMEX affiliated vaults, is 273.64 million ounces. But here, I put in a little rectangle here, which takes away the SLV owned bars and the I'm presuming about 20 million or so. That's the lower estimate of silver that belongs to IRAs held in the Delaware Vault. So we're down to, let's say, 145 or so million ounces, and we don't know how much of that across all vaults is privately owned, as opposed to owned by a bank. We're at the same amount of silver as we were in around 2015, 2016, except taking away this rectangle from the total supply, right? Taking away the SLV supply, which is not available for sale for anyone. And what we are at now is a silver supply of 2016 with premiums at 27 to 30%. So those premiums on the physical silver are going to incentivize this silver to leave the vaults, and we could see an all-time low in silver supply pretty soon, which I think will seriously pick up as the next round of money printing gains steam. We've already began with the bailout of the regional banks, which has expanded the Fed's balance sheet since mid-March. And we're not in full-blown money printing mode yet, but that's where we're headed. And when we do head there, it's very possible that the physical silver supply at the COMEX could run very low. In the meantime, this is Rafi, the Endgame Investor. There isn't that much silver left on the COMEX. It looks like there is, but there isn't. JPMorgan has less than 30 million ounces left. They took out 3.5 million ounces off the registry yesterday. That's about 10% of their entire silver stockpile in one day. These numbers are a lot thinner than they look. So don't mind the premiums. I would get physical silver if I didn't have any, though I'm not giving any advice because, advice is illegal. Illegal! Stay calm, stay shiny, stay at the bottom, at the base of the pyramid. That is where reality is most stable. And if you enjoyed this video, then sign up for a 2-week free trial of the Endgame Investor or become my patron on Patreon, where you will get a once weekly video of biblical commentary on money, economic policy, and government, using 3,000-year-old stories to show that the nature of money has not changed over the millennia, which is, a very stabilizing thing to know and understand.